Dudes, I'm at the studio, and once again, the Wi-Fi is not working. It's like, I wonder sometimes, I grew up in a generation where, we didn't have any of this stuff. And, in the 80s and 90s, it was late 90s is when it was kind of coming around. I still have an AOL email address. I don't get a ton of emails in it other than spam these days. My wife and I email back and forth on that account. But the crazy thing about that, I think it was like fucking $24.99 a month for that email address when I first got it. And I paid for that thing for years before I realized that I could have a free email address. And I ended up having to reach out to like AOL support and be like, hey, why the fuck am I paying for this? And they're like, oh yeah, you can have a free email address. I'm like, yeah, dude, I've given you probably a few $1,000s over the course of like years. Like, I can't even tell you how long I was paying for an email address. Wild times. It was like the Wild West back then. I really was a huge fan of the whole, you've got mail. Like when you heard that when you were younger, you're like, holy shit. It was like getting a letter in the mail when you were a kid. You were like excited that, your parents came in and said, oh, little Jimmy, you got a letter in the mail. And you're like, holy shit, what could it be? Hopefully it was like a card from Mima and there was a couple of bucks in there. Crazy. You've Got Mail. That was a good movie too. Who was in that movie? Tom Hanks. Thank God for like 5G, because I can pull shit up on my phone. I don't know how to do this without internet on my computer, but whatever. We're gonna make you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it live
tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live.
Okay.
No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Right. Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
I'll do it live. So that's what we're going to do. It's funny to bring up the internet right away at the beginning of this podcast because Bets and I have been watching this show. I think it's been out for a few years called The Men That Built America. And it's like, starts off with like Daniel Boone, the American Revolution stuff. Who are the people who are the guys that Sigmund and Roy, the guys that walked across the country to map out all the way to Oregon? No, I know it's not Siegfried and Roy. It's Lewis and Clark. So Lewis and Clark, doing the whole mapping out to the west to get basically to Oregon, or to the Pacific, so that we could start, getting people to move out that way. Interesting shit. Kit Carson and John Fremont, how they basically made they mapped out the Oregon Trail, and just talking about like the American Revolution, wild, the fuck was it? Like Texas fighting against Mexico for Texas independence, and then that war with, who was it? Basically, that war turned into an American war for California. Anyways, I'm rambling here with this, but it's just absolutely fucking wild. These people, these men, like, it's like Lord of the Rings, you guys. So in like the Fellowship of the Rings or the Hobbit, right? It takes fucking years for these little people, these hobbits and the wizard and all that shit to like go to Mount Doom or fucking Mordor or whatever it's called, and they're just walking. Like Lewis and Clark mapping out all the way to the Pacific Ocean, Kit Carson and Fremont mapping a trail for to go west to populate the western side of the continent. They did that shit on horseback and on feet, just walking through. There's no roads, there's no trails, they're just out there doing it, camping. Weather is crazy or whatever. Nobody does that shit today. We've got the internet and AI, and life is easy. You can get 5 gallons of ice cream for $5.99. It's easy to be like lazy as fuck. I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. Life is just so easy now. To be the kind of person to say, number one, if you're sitting in your home in Europe and you're like talking to your wife and you're 17 kids and you're like, hey, listen, here's what I'm thinking about doing. There's this ship that's going to go across the ocean. We don't know where it's like going because we don't have any maps. We're just using the stars and the currents, and we're taking a bunch of beer and potatoes, and we are going to go across this ocean to this other land. And hey, when I get there, I'll write you a letter and I'll put it on the boat coming back, and it'll take a few months. It'll take a couple months or so for us to get to where we're going. It'll take a few months for the letter to come back, and I'll let you know if I made it. Meanwhile, anything could happen. And then once you get there, they're like, okay, yeah, so there's like a bunch of fucking woods. Maybe build a few cabins and a fort. And, we're out of food now because we ate it all on the trip over, so you're going to have to go find food. And you know that some of these people thought there was fucking, like, dinosaurs over in the Americas? They didn't know. I mean, it was just, we're just rolling the dice. And of course then when you get there, you're getting into battles and shit with the natives and just like, if you live to be 35, that's like 100 today. It's nuts. Some shit like Daniel Boone brought his family over, and he had like 11 kids. Like, imagine being 9 and then coming over to the Americas and like going, all right, like if you were 9, you were definitely probably a man at that point. Back then. I look at my 9-year-old and I'm like, oh, well, she's a fucking gangster though. She could probably handle that shit. But I look at some kids and I'm like, there's no way. Just crazy. Can you remember what you smelled? Could you imagine what you smelled like? Or what just like everything smelled like? Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could do it. I say to myself sometimes, watching this show, because it is crazy. And they do a really good job in the show. It's very cinematic. It's very, it's like almost like watching a movie. They have really good producers of the show, so they pack a ton of action into it, so it really keeps you engaged, but they tell a good story. And it's just nuts to think that people of that caliber lived back then to do some of the wild shit that they did. And like now, like the hardest thing somebody could do today is develop a really cool like computer program that compete with Call of Duty or something, you know, or go into the actual military, which I think is very much getting softer and softer. But that's up for another conversation. But yeah, it's just, and there's nothing like that today. It's just, it's amazing, really. Take the historical debate out of the equation about what was good, what was bad about it, and all that shit. Just the sheer will of these humans to build America. Crazy. Like I said, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, which I still miss. I miss the 80s and 90s. It seems like, I think every generation does this shit. What I'm about to do is think back in fondness of when they grew up. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's always times in history, and there always will be times in history, where an older person will say, well, when I was growing up, it was so awesome. And I think as you get older and you're in like your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're kind of living in like today, and you say, oh man, this is rough. But you know what? There are kids growing up right now that are like, this is fucking great. And I really can't blame them. I just feel like there's nothing that's pushing us to drive ourselves unless we put that on ourselves. And I think, a lot of people, that are in search of something, that kind of need a little bit of hardship, that need a little bit of stress, that need a little bit of pain, that kind of helps fuel their creativity and their desire to do something more than what's just kind of around them. Those people I think are entrepreneurs. Those people are, they may not be professional. Excuse me. They may not be professional athletes, but they're doing crazy shit like ultra marathons or ultra trail runs, or they're doing these really difficult endurance sports because they're looking for something that's got a little bit of pain. There's some pain points in there that they can't find in the everyday mundane life of going to work, punching the clock, doing the same fucking routine every morning, coming home, maybe having dinner if they're blessed enough to have a partner, a family at home that can kind of lift them up. That's great. But then maybe they're going to the couch or the love seat and they're scrolling through fucking TikTok. And listen, don't get me wrong. I don't toe any perfect line when it comes to that shit. Although I live a pretty free life. I'm very blessed to be able to do the things that I do, and that I really love them. So I find a lot of joy in my days. And but I do find myself when I'm at home, it's the end of the night, maybe the kids are getting ready for bed, Betsy's getting ready for bed, and I'm just kind of sitting and chilling. I find myself, let's see what's going on. It always starts off with good intentions. Maybe I'm just going to check my analytics. And then I get right into, while I'm here, maybe I'll scroll a little bit. I definitely don't think that's a good thing. And I'm trying to do considerably less than that. I don't check my emails about once a day, and that's at 5:30 in the morning. Check my email. If I need to respond, I respond. But if you reply back to one of my emails at fucking 10 o'clock in the morning, your boy's not seeing it until 5:30 the next day. I do my best to disconnect. I have a very small friend group, a couple of group chats. That's it. And I think for me, and I really do think largely for a lot of people, if you can find a way to disconnect from social media and find something that you can do that's hard, that's got some pain points, that really helps give you a little nudge. I I say do it. And that could be anything. For some people, it could just be walking 20 minutes on a treadmill. Or for another person, it could be, hey, I'm going to go do a fucking Ironman, you know? But find something. Find something that really kind of has a little bit of pain. Because I think that really does help everything. It helps your mood, helps your creativity. It helps, improve your vibe, all that good stuff. I think at some point I brought up the 80s and 90s. Oh, yeah. Anyways, so here we go, rambling again. But it's kind of what you get when I don't have a guest. So, and I do have some guests coming up. So next week and the week after, I'll be popping some podcasts. Finally getting Brian Gutowski, Law Dog in Manistee County on. He's coming in next week. And like I said before in another podcast, we've been kind of trying to coordinate like a workout because he's got a pretty dope gym at his house. But the times when he works out and when I'm in bed, the dude likes to work out like at 9:30 at night, which is wild to me. But we're still going to try to figure something out where we can get a lift in. I think that'll be fun. But in any event, coming in, going to sit down, have a good conversation with him for the second time he's been on. This will be the second time he's on the podcast, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And Blade Gates from the Chamber, young dude. I don't want to say what he does because I feel like I'm going to get it wrong, but he's doing some good things at the Chamber, so I'm going to talk to him. So he's coming on next week. So good stuff. Good stuff. The 80s and 90s. That's right. I'm sorry. We're going to come back to that. I fucking loved growing up in the 80s and 90s. Your boy's a product of the 70s, late 70s, but really cut my teeth in the 80s and 90s. And in particular, I think the 80s culture is what I tend to, I'm a Gen Xer. The 90s were good to me. Wasn't like really into the whole grunge thing. Believe it or not, I was more of a khakis and collared shirt guy in high school. But hey, that was just my fit back then. At one point, when Boyz II Men, your boy might have, for a little small moment of time, wore bib overalls with one strap down. I know, fucking wild. And I think I had MC Hammer pants, but that was more when in my pre to early teen, maybe 13-ish, 12, 13, 14, I rocked a little MC Hammer pants. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you're definitely either a lot younger or a lot older than me. So, but those are the days. And you know what? The shit was fly. Come to school in a pair of bibs with one strap down. Like, get the fuck out of here. This guy, save a little for the rest of us, Jim. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way it was. Hammer pants, that was an even smaller moment in time where it was like, yeah, I don't think I can pull this off. So, anyways, khakis, collared shirt, kind of like a polo, you know what I mean? Kind of one of those guys in a very small town public school setting. So it was either Carhartts or, which I always had a Carhartt. Dude, I have a Carhartt that I still wear today that is well over 20 years old. It's a great fucking jacket. Vintage, as the kids say. But how about this? Picture this. You're a kid in the 80s, right? You're sitting down in front of your TV. And like we had one of those TVs that still had the, dial. And it was inside of like a wooden box. Yeah. I mean, there was quite a few times before we like really got any serious channels that like if the antenna wasn't working, you didn't adjust the antenna. Like my dad would be like, go hit the TV. So and we had a remote that was, probably the size of my iPhone here, but like really thick, and it had like 2 buttons on it. There wasn't an on and off. It was just 2 buttons. It would scroll. You could hit the up button to go to the next channel, or the down button to go to the previous channels or whatever. The TV itself was, I don't know, maybe, it wasn't huge. It was like probably 19 inches. That seems like it might be too big. Because the fucking box it was in made the TV look huge. And the thing weighed like, 400 pounds. It was almost like an appliance that if you moved, you're like, fuck, that TV's staying here. We're not moving it. Sitting down in front of that TV, and then all of a sudden, Magnum PI comes on. I mean, as a kid, all I wanted was to be Magnum. That dude's fucking mustache, if there was a way to just like pay for it to get one like that, I mean, my favorite part of like the opening is when he's holding the girl in the water, like he's teaching her to swim, and he kind of looks down at her butt. And the shorts the dude wore, I mean, those are kind of coming back into play now. It's like just enough to cover your, and then all leg. What was the other show of the 80s? I mean, check out the opening like this. Whoa, I wish I had my 19. Yeah, dude. The other one, the other show, like if you could get these in as a kid, you were watching TV gold. Do you guys remember Airwolf? Holy shit. Airwolf, the guys that had like it was like a fucking Black Hawk or whatever, like the helicopter. These guys were like cute, like everyday dudes that like, all of a sudden some criminals were doing some shady shit. Airhawk would come in and save the day. Who are the people in the Airhawk? Dude, Airhawk was sick. Yo, hit me in the comments. The guy that played like the main character Airhawk, I think he went down like a drugs and alcohol road, but beautiful man. Stunning human. Yeah, that show was fun too. Of course, A-Team. Get the fuck out of here. A-Team was amazing. So you had Magnum PI, Airhawk, A-Team. They don't make shows like that. And they were making TV shows, or not TV shows, they were making movies about Russians descending their paratroopers down in the baseball fields of a high school. Right? Red Dawn? Huh? Patrick Swayze? Like, only in the 80s could you have a movie where it was like, hey, listen, guys, I've got an idea. Russia is going to invade the U.S., right? But here's the kicker. They're going to land in this small town at a high school, but the kids in the high school are going to be the heroes, and they're going to defeat the Red Army. And I could see everybody in the room going, that's a pretty good fucking idea. I like it. I like where your head's at. So we're going to get Patrick Swayze, right? This guy, yeah, forget about Dirty Dancing. Was this before Dirty Dancing? I think it was before Dirty Dancing. But in any event, like, it's a classic. It's a cult classic. I mean, if you grew up when I grew up, Red Dawn was every kid's dream. Like, I watched Red Dawn, and I was like, the Russians come here, I'm fucking up some Russians. You know what I'm saying? It's real simple. We're going to go out into the woods, guys. We're going to camp. We're going to take our father's guns, and we're going to ambush these fuckers. We're going to save the good old USA. They don't make movies like that anymore. I mean, what a phenomenal concept. It just screams America. Like, no. We're not calling in the army because they're not good enough. We've got the football team. Anyhow, That's what I'm talking about. That's my little piece of what's up today. Nice and easy. We hit on a lot of things in a short period of time. But anyhow, I use most of this for clips anyways, so bear with me. But I just got back from Ludington. I was at WMOM and picked up a prize because your boy called in on a giveaway, the square pool thing for the Super Bowl. Didn't win. The big win was a trip to Hawaii, but because I got through and picked a square, I got like fucking 15 gift cards. Pretty rad. So shout out to Chris, WMM. That's a pretty cool deal. My 9-year-old, the day I called in, was like, Dad, you should call. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting in. They get like 800 phone calls in a minute. Like, there's no way I'm getting in. I had to be caller 25. I'm like, whatever, I'll try. Called caller 25. You know? And didn't win the square to go to Hawaii, but that's okay because that was a trip for two. And we were like, well, I guess if we win, we'll take the whole family, and that would cost us thousands of dollars. So kind of was excited for the possibility to win it, but not so excited about the money to take everybody. But I did get some pretty cool gift cards, so that's neat. Some of them I'm going to give away, some of them I'm going to use, but good stuff, real good stuff. So anyways, I'm going to end it there. That was my rant for the day. Hugs and kisses on all your pink parts.